How are you doing, sir?
Just fine. How are you?
Pretty good. You're coming up first here and coming up later on with J.J. Dillon. And what have you been up to since, your late wrestling days and everything? What have you been up to? Why don't you give our listeners a little bit of an update as to what's been up with Bunkhouse Buck?
Well, I'm still in the game. I'm still wrestling, going tonight up in Kentucky. Going to take care of some business up there. So, we hadn't give it up yet. Still in pretty good shape.
Oh, great
Very
stuff.
cool. Now,
so
my
I guess
question.
You should go ahead.
Go ahead, Jonathan. My question for you is, what was it like to begin wrestling when you did?
There you go.
Well, it was very exciting. I was real nervous, of course, but it was exciting. Something I'd looked forward to, being that I'd been around it all my life. So I was fortunate enough to have some size and the ability to do it, and a lot of good people training me. So it was something all during my childhood. That when I got old enough and big enough, first chance I'd be getting in the ring.
Definitely understandable. Jonathan Clark, go ahead.
Now, you did a lot of tag team work, and you also wrestled in the same territory as your father, I do believe. His name is Billy Golden. What was it like for you working in the same territory as your father?
Well, I was very fortunate. I knew he was enjoying seeing his son being able to do quite well in the business. He was proud of that, just the same as that I'm proud of my son for being an All-American ball player. We're real close. I'm from a divorced family, so, we lived together, worked together, wrestled together, rode up and down the road together, so, I miss him very much. I wish I could go through it again.
Definitely. Daryl, go ahead.
Hi. My question to you is, how did it feel to be in a tag team with your own cousin?
I'm sorry, repeat.
Okay, no problem. I said, how did it feel to be in a tag team with your own cousin?
Fantastic. Robert Fuller, were you talking about, and Ron Fuller, two first cousins, grew up together, come up wrestling together. Their daddy and my mother is brother and sister, makes us first cousin, and, Robert and Ron were very good in the ring. In my book, they was. So, we held some tag team championships together, and it was an interesting part of my life.
And definitely understandable on that. It's got to be really nice being able to team with your family and knowing that they're right there next to you.
Yes. You can always count on them to do their very best.
Oh, yeah. What was it like wrestling in Australia for Jim Barnett?
That was 2 months I spent over there in the early 70s, and I got to meet Brute Bernard, Gary Hart, King Curtis, Mark Lewin, a bunch of great Australian wrestlers. Bill Dundee's from there, George Barnes, and the list goes on and on. I had a wonderful time in Australia. I always wanted to go back and was supposed to go back, but ran into a problem there and didn't get to go back. But Jim Barnett was very nice to me, and I always respected Jim for being a big-time promoter. Jim was famous for drawing money everywhere he went, and I like Jim.
Oh, yeah. As long as promoters take care of you, you should like them. So, Jonathan Clark, go ahead.
You've been around a lot of tag teams, Mr. Buck, and you've worked with a lot of them, Legion of Doom, and a lot of teams in WCW and even in the indie circuit. But I want to get your thoughts primarily on the tag team of the Rock and Roll Express, which you've been around. What are your thoughts, opinions on them? You got any good stories about them? Go off on them. What do you want to say about them?
Well, we had some tough matches with the Rock and Roll Express. They're both very good. The Robert Gibson, I knew his brother, Ricky Gibson, come up together, me and him, got in the business about the same time. So, you know, and Robert was tagged up with Ricky Morton, who was special man in the ring in my book. We had some knockdown, drag-outs with him. You know, I have nothing but respect for them guys. I always look forward to the matches against them because I knew, you know, it was going to be a barn burner. So, you know, them guys have had a great run. They've had their problems here and there, but, you know, everybody remembers the Rock and Roll Express. So, you know, I'm hoping maybe I get in there with them one more time before I quit.
Probably will.
Daryl Malone, go ahead.
All right, my next question to you, sir, is you were part of a tag team called the Avengers. What was that like for you?
Repeat the question, please.
Okay, yeah, no problem. I said you were part of a tag team called the Avengers. What was that like for you?
You know, I've always pretty much enjoyed any part of the business that I ever done, whether if I wrestled under a mask, if I was Bunkhouse Buck, if I was Jimmy Golden. You know, it don't matter to me as long as I'm stepping in the ring. Of course, it's a business. It's about money. But, you know, as long as you're having a good time at it, most of the time, you know, you got your bumps and your bruises and some unfortunate accidents that happen from time to time where you're going to get hurt. But, you know, I had to count my blessings that I've been real lucky that I'm still able to do it and haven't been hurt seriously enough that it put me out of the business yet. So, you know, I got nothing but good things to say about the business, really.
And definitely, that's always good when you don't have anything bad to say. There's a lot of guys with bitter feelings, and it's just good to hear that you're not one. Do you have any good road stories you'd like to share with us?
Gosh, you know, it's just been so many. It's hard to say, man. I guess one that stands out is going from San Antonio, Texas to Odessa for Blanchard. That was back in the late 70s, and that was a 360-mile trip one way that was all flat, straight road. We had a rental car, and it seemed like we drove 120 miles an hour all the way there and back. And Bruiser Brody was there, and, you know, Bruiser was something else. He was a special guy in the ring, too. But, you know, Odessa's trip stands out, that how long it took, how many jackrabbits we must have ran over before we got back, because the road's full of them out there. You know, but we had a great time out there. There was some good, interesting people out there. Ken Lucas was there at the time, the man that I stayed with while I was there, and of course Tully and his dad was still in business there, and it was an interesting trip.
All right, Jonathan Clark, go ahead.
What was it like becoming a part of WCW in 1994? Of course, the same year that Mick Foley lost his ear to Big Van Vader in that matchup that everyone remembers.
That was a nice time that my cousin helped me get into that deal. Robert Fuller was already there, Colonel Robert Parker, and he helped get that thing started off. I was under a deal with WCW. The money was good. Had an interesting time. Some hard, tough matches with the Nasty Boys. Enjoyed being teamed up with Terry Funk, Dirty Dick Slater. Always enjoyed watching Mankind and Van Vader, somebody losing an ear or nose or something. They had some wild matches. So it was an exciting part of my career, WCW.
Definitely. Jonathan Clark, go ahead. Or,
Okay,
Dale Malone,
in Okay. Go ahead, Dale.
Dale, you there?
Daryl.
Oh, my turn? Sorry, my bad. You were given the name in WCW Bunkhouse Buck. How did you get that name?
They was wanting a bunkhouse match for Dustin Rhodes, and they decided they needed a Bunkhouse Buck to be in that match. And so, you know, they all come up with that, and they needed somebody to be the man, and I got the chance. Seemed to work out pretty good. I was able to be Bunkhouse, you know. Just seemed to fit my ticket pretty good, being an old country boy from Tennessee, you know.
Definitely. How is it different from being a manager than a wrestler?
Well, you know, a wrestler, he's got a lot more to do. It's a lot physically more tougher. You know, I've not done any managing really. Just, you know, been with Robert when he was managing me. I know that he worked just as hard as any other manager I ever seen. You know, it's an important role, and I thought he did an excellent job. So, but you know, it's not like being in there getting slammed around. I can tell you that.
Definitely. Jonathan Clark, go ahead.
WCW was good to you, and one of the things they did for you was give you part of the WCW Tag Team titles, the World Tag Team titles. What was that experience like for you?
That was a real proud moment for me and Dick Slater both to win the Tag Team titles, World Tag Team titles. You know, my family was real happy and pleased with that, and I brought the championship belt home. I got to strut around like an old banty rooster for a little while, you know. So that's one that Bunkhouse can chalk up credit to his career.
Very nice. Daryl Malone, go ahead.
All right. You were part of the Stud stable in SCW. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, Stud stable. That was back during the era of me and Robert, my cousin, partners. He was still in the ring, and at part of the time, Dutch Mantell was in the stable, and another guy named let me think here, Brian, that came through there for a while. There was a couple of different guys that was in the stable for a short period of time that were in and out. Mainly me and Robert was a Stud stable. His wife Sylvia managed us there for a while. We won some championships again, and you know, and being with family was you know, it was an interesting time and a good money maker.
Definitely. The next question actually comes from somebody that just sent it to me. It says, what does it take to be a true heel in professional wrestling?
It takes time. That's the main thing. You need to be babyface for, I was told, for 10 years before you try to heel, so you understand what's going on. You know what you need to do. You've got enough experience to be a leader. That's what it takes to be a good heel.
Definitely. Jonathan Clark, go ahead.
Tennessee, primarily around Nashville, is where a lot of people go to be famous, whether you're a musical artist or a performer. Fame seems to be seeked down in Tennessee, and I've done a lot of work down there as well, from artists to everything. But down in Tennessee, they have a company called Tennessee Championship Wrestling, and you work for that company. What was it like working down there?
Well, Tennessee's home. I guess I'm happiest here, if not Alabama. And there's a lot of independent promotions throughout Tennessee that I have wrestled for. I'm not choosy. I'll wrestle for any of them. So it's part of a business that I'll take seriously, and like I said, I'll wrestle for any of them. And I always try to make the best of it. You mentioned earlier that a lot of guys had bad feelings about the business, and I understand why. It ain't always roses. It wasn't always roses for me either. But
no.
When I weigh it out on the scales, the good outweighs the bad, and I really don't have any regrets. It's been an exciting career.
Very good.
Okay.
Daryl, go ahead.
All right, you competed in a match for the TCW title. Can you tell us about that?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, no problem. You competed in a match for the TCW title. Can you tell us about that?
The match that we won them against the Harlan Heat?
Yes, I think that's what he's talking about.
It was a tough match. The Heat, they some big, powerful men, and you don't just grab or hold of one of them and throw him anywhere that you want to.
Yeah.
They was having an off night, and me and Dirty Dick Slater was having a good night. We got lucky, and we beat them. So it's a wonderful feeling, to be able to wear them tag team belts. You never know, what to expect in them kind of matches. But, the Heat's some big old strong guys. They were tough boys. You didn't knock them down too easy.
Yeah. What do you think of the independent wrestling scene today?
Well, it's nothing like it was when I started. And the independent thing is just guys that want to be wrestlers and promoters. They're not really going to go anywhere, I don't think, unless they got a ton of money. But you got to follow your dreams. It's what everybody says. If you want to be a promoter wrestler, a lot of the young guys that's coming up today are come from independent wrestling promotions.
Oh yeah.
And they some of them have that dream of making it to New York City one day up there at WWE, and some of them will. A lot of them won't. But I don't have any problem with it. Like I said, it's not the business that it was 20 years ago.
Definitely. No. We'll go one last round. That way you can get going, because I know you have to get ready to go to a show. So okay. I'll let Jonathan Clark and Daryl go one last question, and then we'll let you go. Jonathan Clark, go ahead.
Oh my God! If I got to ask one last question, it has to be my famous one. Where do you see yourself in 10 or 15 years? And before you answer that, I have to tell you, almost every wrestler I've asked this question to, and I've asked it to almost over 50 people, and their response is, well, I hope I'm not dead. But where do you see yourself in 10 or 15 years?
Well, I see myself sitting back in my rocking chair, holding maybe a couple of grandkids and watching them play ball like I did my son. And, just try to live a happy, peaceful life and a healthy life.
Okay.
It's very important to have health and happiness in my life. So, I think I got as much out of watching my son play ball as I did all my trips around the world. That was meant a lot to me. So, when you see one of your kids coming up doing good, like my daddy did me, I'm sure that he was very proud of that. And I enjoyed performing for him and doing things like he told me to, because that made him happy. So, I'm hoping to see my boy, man, he's going to have a few ball players that I'm going to get to watch him.
Definitely. And Daryl Malone, go ahead. One last question.
All right, my last question is the question I love asking. Do you have any advice for any up-and-coming wrestler or anybody wanting to become a wrestler?
Well, it's like I said, if it's a dream, you know, if it's something that you've always lived for, then you got to go for it. You give it a shot. If you're going to decide that you're going to do something, give it all you got. Got to be patient. Takes time. Rome wasn't built in a day. You know, and try to find you a guy that's been around like me, that's been in the business for 20 years or better, to show you what to do. Maybe go to one of the schools. I know Tom Pritchard, a guy that I've known for years, is probably running that school down in Tampa. You know, if you can get in one of them schools, then you ought to have it made. You know, wrestling business has been here for years, and it's like a roller coaster ride that's up and down, but it don't ever seem to die. So, you know, if that's what you think you want to do, then go for it.
Definitely. And I'd like to thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, and we'll let you go so that you can go get ready for your show.
All right, I'll be in touch, huh, Corey?
All right, sounds good.
Thank you.
All right. Bye. All right.
Bunkhouse Buck bowing out right there.